大家族フォーサイス家の長女のよりと
ローラ、
長男の有馬のワイフのローラが今シドニーに遊びに来ているので、ローラから、皆さんに重大報告があります。ベイビーフォーサイス家に新たなベイビーが誕生します。私は出産して今5週間、経ったので、出産して5週間経った私と、義理の妹であるローラが今妊娠 How many months?
6 months. 25 weeks.
25 weeks. オーストラリアと日本での妊婦生活のお話だったりとか、今後その子育てのお話だったりとか、いろいろ聞いていこうかと思います。
大家族フォーサイス家。
So, congratulations again. Very, very exciting. How's your pregnancy been so far?
It's been alright. Hasn't been as bad as I thought. I think I didn't have the morning sickness and
I had really bad morning sickness. I'm jealous. That's good. That smooth pregnancy is good.
Yeah, just had like a lot of back pain and hip pain.
It might get worse in third trimester. My pain started in about week 30, I think.
Okay.
I don't think it was actually as bad as some other people. Like for me, because it was so smooth in the second trimester,
Yeah.
it all kind of hit around 30 weeks, and my belly wasn't even barely showing it up until third trimester. I could really hide it at work and things. How's your experience being a nymphu in Japan? Like as a foreigner, the system's quite different. I talked about my experience having a baby in Australia in a public system in New South Wales. I'm really curious what it's like in Japan. Obviously, I've never had a baby in Japan. So what's your experience been in Japan in general with your, the care that you've received and the system and things?
I think it's been really good. I'm really surprised to hear that in Australia you don't get many scans, but in Japan you get so many. Like,
Every appointment or?
every appointment you get a scan, and you get a lot of appointments. Like I have so many pictures at home.
Do you appreciate having so many appointments and scans, or do you feel like it's a bit too much?
Both, but mostly I appreciate it because it's been really interesting to see the baby at every stage, from a tiny little bean to
But what's the size now?
99 days.
99 days till the due date. 100日切りました。Watermelon, a quarter of a watermelon, I guess. Maybe you could screenshot it as well and you could.
When in Australia, did you ever get told this as a kid, that if you swallow the watermelon
Yeah, they
seed,
grow the watermelon inside. Oh yeah, it's like literally growing a watermelon now inside. I had 3 scans in the end for free, and then I had a couple of scans that I paid for. One was a 3D 4D scan because I just wanted. They don't do that for free here because the public system in Australia, as I mentioned in the video, everything is free unless you want to get extra things that you want to do. And I really wanted a 3D 4D scan, which I really appreciate because as you can see here, I reckon Akira turned out exactly like the scan.
Yeah.
And that was taken at exactly 30 weeks. And I thought he was cute in the scan, and he's just so much cuter as well in real life. Have you had a 3D 4D scan yet?
Yes, we have. We had one at, how many weeks? I think it was 23 weeks, the photo here. And then hopefully we'll get another one done when I go back to Japan.
At the moment, can you tell who they look like?
I can't.
You can't tell?
I think it's still a bit hard. I heard that 22, 23 weeks is still, they don't have much of the fat on the face yet. It's a bit hard to see the face clearly. Hopefully in the next one we'll be able to find out who it looks like.
So they'll be quarter Japanese.
Yeah.
So 3/4 Australian and a quarter Japanese.
Yeah.
So they'll most likely look not Japanese, I would probably most likely, but who knows? Who knows how genetics work?
Exactly.
Exciting.
Interesting to see.
Yeah. In Japan, you don't have babies in the hospital. You go to a clinic, right? Is there a particular clinic that you decided to go to, or what's your kind of plan?
Yeah, I think you can actually give birth in the maternity ward of general hospitals, but I think a lot of people want to go to maternity clinics. We just found one that looked really nice and was relatively close to our house. I wanted to be pretty close just in case. So yeah, that's the one we decided on. We did a few appointments there and we liked the place. So.
And you said one of the doctors speaks English, right?
Yeah, we didn't know that until the appointment, so that was a nice surprise.
That's nice. How's Arima been as a, a pre-dad? Like, has he been supportive?
Yeah, he's been really supportive. There's a couple of times he couldn't make it to the appointments because of work, and he was really sad. He was like, film for me, get some good photos for me, kind of thing. So yeah, he's really excited.
But I heard that he's going to take paternity leave, right?
Yeah, he wants to take a few months.
Yeah.
Which will be really helpful for me since we'll be in Japan and my family won't be there.
I think that's actually a pretty big deal in Japan, because I heard that he's the first male to be taking paternity leave in his company.
Yeah.
Even in Japan, I know there's a lot of talk and, people are starting to take paternity leave, but a few months is a long time for Japan standards, Japanese standards. I think even Australian standards, father taking a few months off is actually still quite rare. And I think it will be so helpful. Like, it's been 5 weeks obviously, and Joe's been super helpful. I could not do this without Joe's help. Like the night feeds and things it's critical, in my opinion, to have the father as involved with them and looking after the baby. I don't know, in Japan I think it's still very much the mother is responsible for the baby. There's that mentality, I feel. And even somewhat in Australia, it's still very much the mother that takes the lead and looks after the newborn baby. So I was really, really impressed and happy to hear that Aruna was taking that essential time. The first few months I think is the hardest time, adjusting to the new life. Obviously every baby is going to be different. But learning what your baby's routine is and what they like and dislike and how it works for your family and works for your lifestyle and your environment, it really does, I think, take that long. So I think it's really good that he's taking that time to learn with you, because it's a huge adjustment, but very happy adjustment. The first few weeks you'll probably lose a lot of sleep, but it's all forgiven because they're so cute. So even when you're like super sleepy and you look at them and you're like, it's like a love that you never knew that existed. So I'm really looking forward to my little, how's a gender neutral way of saying?
I've heard this, nibbling.
Nibbling?
But I hate it, it's gross.
My new nibbling? That's chewing.
Like,
KFC nibbling.
It sounds gross. You can just say niece or nephew.
大家族フォーサイス家
It's got to be super cold in Japan, because I think their due date is like November, December, right?
Yeah, end of November, so it's going to be probably winter, baby.
Well, Akira was also a winter baby, but Australian winter is like Japanese autumn pretty much. But I'd rather a cold newborn phase than a hot newborn phase, I feel. Like, if you were to have a baby in July or August in Japan, I think that would have been a struggle with the heat.
Even being 5 months pregnant, 6 months in Japanese summer has been tough. I can't imagine being 9 months, so good on you, mothers who give birth in Japanese summer.
And all the snuggles that you get to have in winter, because
you want to stay warm.
How do you feel about having a baby? Obviously Japan is a foreign country for you, coming from Australia, and Japanese is your second language, so it's not your mother tongue. How have you been finding it? Like, are you nervous? Are you excited? Are you getting enough support from the community or Japan? Like, do you feel like you're well equipped in Japan?
I mean, I feel like thinking about giving birth is already kind of...
No matter where you are.
No matter where you are, it's nerve-wracking. But I feel like the care has been really good in Japan. The doctors have been really lovely. My doctor speaks English, Irma can come with me. I've had to kind of study up and make sure I understand a bit of the medical terminology. There's lots of Facebook groups available where you can meet other mums. I've met a lot of other foreign mums as well who are in the same situation as me, and it's just nice to have that support. I think a lot of us don't have much family here, so it's nice to be able to meet people online and get information and have people who are in the same boat. It's been hard at times, not having my family and that kind of thing, but...
And that's why you're here now, right? Why you still can travel. You're back here with your family, spending time before the baby arrives, and stocking up on Australian items. Speaking of, actually, that's a good question. What are some of the items you've been told to stock up from Australia that you can't access much in Japan?
One of them is teething gel, and I think it's not a big thing in Japan to give babies kind of pain relief for teething, so when their teeth start coming through. Whereas here, I think a lot of people use teething gel, feeding toys and that kind of thing.
That's true. I remember in my really young brothers being, a baby. And I don't actually remember any of the teething kind of phase. I don't think we made a big deal out of it at all.
Another one is the baby onesies that have the zips.
I'll show you one.
Yeah.
I have plenty here, but these kind of like the zippy ones, right?
Yeah. I think in Japanese shops I found a lot of ones that have clips.
Clips or like himo, like the ties.
Yeah. I've just heard that the zips are a lot easier and they're a lot easier to find here. There's so much variety, so I've stocked up on those.
Yeah, we have plenty that we can bring to you maybe a month after your baby's born. They're so handy. These were all gifted to me as well, so I think that's the beauty of having a community of people around your age, like friends and family who've had newborns, because obviously newborn things you only use for a couple of months really, and then you don't really use them anymore, maybe for your next child. But I think the best thing to do is to re-gift them and pass them on.
I think another thing that's probably different as well, in Australia it's pretty common to have a baby shower, isn't it? Which is basically a little party, so before the baby's born, getting together with friends and family and just celebrating the arrival of the baby. So I'm really happy that the timing worked out and I was able to have a little baby shower. We did some photos, we did a little gender reveal with the balloon.
Nice.
So Arima couldn't make it with me this time to come to Australia. He's busy working, busy looking after the zoo.
Yep.
But he was on video call for a while and got to say hello to everybody, and that was nice.
Yeah.
It's not so common to have that in Japan, is it?
I wouldn't say it's common, but I've seen a few people do something like a baby shower, like bring friends and celebrate and have a little party kind of thing. But definitely not as common as like the Western society in Australia. I think pretty much everyone has baby showers.
Okay, so Akira's 5 weeks
5
now.
weeks, yep.
So how has it been? Like you said, how has your experience been? Like, what were your expectations
versus reality?
Is there anything that didn't go how you thought it would be, or what's been your biggest learning curve?
The biggest thing that I found has been breastfeeding. There was a lot to it than I thought. I just thought it was as simple as, go and drink. Like, it wasn't. It was very difficult from even like latching and knowing how much he's getting and things like that. I'm not even sure in Japan if pumping is a big thing, how often they need to feed, and there's just so much. Yeah. And I'm still learning, to be honest. It's 5 weeks. We supplement with formula. We found that works for us the best, especially because, I want Joe to also be feeding the baby, and I'm not always going to be 24/7. I do have some volunteer things that I do outside, and I like to have my me time as well as a mother. So that really works for us, especially at night. We supplement the breast milk with formula, but I know that's not for everyone. I think go in without any expectation when it comes to breast milk. Like, be open. Your milk might not come in, it might be really difficult to latch, because it's a learning curve for you and your baby. Like, you're learning together. 5 weeks in, Akira and I have now just started to become comfortable with each other and know what his cues are, and my body's responding to him, and he knows how to respond to me and things like that. It did take a while to get into a nice routine, and it was really painful. Nipple shield, nipple cream, silver cup thing worked really well. Take care of your nipples, because but that being said, I think don't be too hard on yourself if your breast milk doesn't come in or it doesn't work for you. I think formula is totally fine as well. That's what I found. I mean, I was always going to do combo feeding with formula, but sometimes I felt like I wasn't giving enough. Am I not being a good mother? Like, those kind of thoughts just naturally, I think, come to mothers. I think those thoughts are natural, but just go without expectation and be very open to things not working out the way you thought it would, especially if you're planning to breastfeed. And the other thing obviously is just give time for the routine. The first week was the most difficult for us with the sleeping. We were hardly sleeping at all because there was no routine. He was waking up whenever. He had his day and night confused. It really helped us because Mum actually came around that time. So when Mum visited for like 3 or 4 nights, she came at the perfect time because that was when it was the hardest for us. So obviously she has experience with 8 babies. I remember one night I was up at like 2 or 3 a.m. You know, I gave him milk, but he was still fussing. You know, I was rocking him and he was still crying. I probably wasn't rocking him properly because I was so sleep deprived. And Mum came out. The moment I gave Akira to Mum, he stopped crying. The moment, and I'm not even kidding, the moment he left my arms into my mum's arms, he was sleeping like a baby because he was a baby. I was so jealous, but I was like, oh, perfect, and I just went to bed. Yeah. And my mum said a few days later, she was like, I thought he would have thought that he was in an earthquake because I was like, going like that. Apparently, but according to Mum, I was like, why are you sleeping?
He's like, Mum, stop!
Oh, there's an earthquake. It was pretty funny when she mentioned a few days later. Yeah, the first week was really difficult.
Yeah.
What worked for us was during the day, make sure that you're living your normal life in terms of the lighting of the room, the noise, like everyday daylight noise. Expose that to him during the day. He's got a nap and things, but I think it's good for him to learn that the day naps versus night sleep. During the night, obviously everything's dark and quiet, like it should be because you're also sleeping. Took us a few weeks for him to get used to the night and day. It doesn't happen overnight, so brace yourself with the first few weeks because at the moment your baby's day and nights are opposite because you're moving around during the day, so they're probably sleeping during the day and then you're rocking them to sleep, and then when you're sleeping at night they're wide awake.
I know.
Is that what you find? Because that was the case for me.
Yeah, it's like as soon as I lay down to bed,
yep,
sleeping on the inside.
Yep. And swaddling. I know it doesn't work for every baby. I don't think my mum did that for us. I don't remember any of my brothers being swaddled. And I don't know in Japan if it's a big thing either. But we got taught at hospital on our first night about swaddling. It's been a godsend because his arms are everywhere. He wakes himself up. He like slaps himself awake without the swaddle. He's not able to sleep long without his arms being restricted. That being said, some babies like having their arms free.
Yeah.
So it might not work for your baby, but for Akira, swaddling a life like a godsend. So those are the 3 big things, I think. Expectation versus reality.
Yeah.
Okay, so the last topic that we wanted to talk about was, going forward, raising children, because I think for us, both of our babies are, well, mixed, multicultural, what do you call it? Mixed, half, quarter. Multi? Whatever the word is, they're Akira he's half Japanese, half Australian. I never know because both of the parents are half Japanese, half Australian. I'm never sure if that makes the baby quarter or half.
I think half? Because if you look at the grandparents, you've got 2 on each side. 2 Australian, 2 Japanese.
So it's still half, yeah. So Akira's half Japanese, half Australian, and your baby is going to be 3/4 Australian and 1/4 Japanese, so both mixed. Akira is being raised so far in Australia, and your baby is going to be born and raised so far in Japan. The big question I think that's on our minds as parents and probably the viewers is how are we going to raise them to become bilingual or bicultural. But that's something obviously there's no answer to. We don't know yet. We're still figuring that out. But yeah, I'm really keen to hear kind of what your plans are in terms of raising the child in Japan. What language are you planning to speak? What kind of schooling are you thinking of? Do you plan on staying in Japan long term? Australia? How do you have like an image that you talk to Arima about?
Well, we speak English at home, so I feel like at first the babies, first language would be English, and then I know probably as soon as they start daycare they're going to pick up Japanese really easily. I mean, so far we want to send them to a Japanese school because I feel like having to learn Japanese outside of the Japanese school system is really difficult. Having to spend your own time learning kanji is really difficult. I think what your guys' parents did is a really good idea. You didn't kid away to shipping them off. And doing homestay, I think, is really beneficial for them to be in the native environment. Like I listen to you guys and you sound like native Australian, like you grew up here. You could do like a kid swap.
Yes, and we've been talking about this way before
Yeah.
we even thought about children. Was you know, one day if we both have children, maybe around the same age, which is great because only 4 months different, same grade. During the holiday times, we could either kid swap or just send them during the holidays, send them to the local school and live with the cousin and the family. And it's homestaying with your extended family. We should definitely do that. What you're planning to do in Japan sounds like exactly the same as what we're planning to do in Australia, but opposite in terms of language, because so far we're going to be speaking Japanese at home while we're living in Australia, and then obviously when he goes to daycare or school, we're going to be sending him to a local, you know, daycare and local Australian school, and they'll obviously pick up English like an Australian kid outside. So I think it's really important for us to maintain the Japanese language at home so that he can still identify as Japanese, and we'll obviously do our best to teach him, you know, some Japanese culture. I do really like the Japanese primary school system, because that's where they learn the Japanese mannerisms and the really basic Japanese language like kanji and reading and writing. Basic culture and identity, I think, is really important during the primary school years. We don't know if it will work out, but if everything works out in terms of, you know, our job situation at the time and things like that, we do want to send Akira to a Japanese primary school. Who knows what will happen? That's the dream. That's the plan anyway.
That's the plan.
And there's so many different technologies available now compared to when I grew up. We're doing YouTube as well, but there's a lot of YouTube resources, and I really want Akira to watch, you know, be able to watch Japanese like Ghibli films or, you know, Japanese, you know, anime or something, and still enjoy that part of the Japanese culture. But that's really easily available now, even from Australia. So I think we're definitely in a better position than what, you know, my parents were back when they were trying to raise bilingual children. You know, learning Japanese in Australia or learning English in Japan is possible and great, and it should be done, but I also think it's important for them to be exposed to our culture, because that's really what shaped my identity as Australian and Japanese, was because I went to a Japanese school as a Japanese person, and then I went to Australia as an Australian, and that's what made me feel like genuinely like I'm both Australian and Japanese, not just the language side, but truly bicultural and truly identifying as both. I personally think that's really, really important, and I really would like to have Akira grow up that way. I definitely would be very supportive in the kid swap idea, and we can send them to each other's schools. So I'll send Akira to your child's school, maybe in the same classroom for a few months, and you vice versa. I think that would be really fun.
Thinking about homestay, I wouldn't want to just send my kid to a random family. I know some people do that, but for me...
Well, I did. They were all very lovely, but still, they were random families.
Yeah, I think it would be really nice, especially because you don't know how much time they'll get to spend together with their, you know, extended family. So it'll give us a break too.
Exactly. So the school holiday times will be a break for the parents, because we could
for some of us
ship them off to to our extended families. Well, thank you so much for visiting Sydney. So lovely to see your little baby bump and have a little chat. And I'm so excited about Akira's cousin coming into the world in a few months' time. Good luck with the rest of your pregnancy. The third trimester wasn't super easy for me, but hope it's super easy for you and not too much trouble. And for a safe and smooth delivery.
Thank you.
Because it wasn't for me. ローラといろいろ赤ちゃんの話、今後の育児の計画などについてお話しさせていただきました。この動画が良かったと思ったら、いいねと
コメン
トとチャンネル登録よろしくお願いします。ではまた次回の動画でお願いします。See you in the next video! Bye!
ちょっと食べようとしたんだけどめっちゃ興味しますね。食べようとしたあっくん食べようとしてます。